Welcome everybody to the October 24th Downtown Advisory Board meeting. We're going to start with a call to order. Kirk Sun. Here. Alan Pollock. Here. Charles Weathers. Here. Rory McManus. Here. Brian Fechtel. Here. Tiana Chase.
Here.
Lori Miller.
Here.
Ernesto Toscovich. Not present. Okay, moving forward to agenda item number 3, the approval of our agenda.
Move to approve our agenda.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the approval of our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. Moving forward to agenda item number 4, the approval of minutes from our September 26th meeting.
Would you approve? A second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the approval of minutes from the September 26th meeting, say aye. Those not, nay. Motion carries. Moving forward to agenda item number 5, public comment. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak or address the board? Okay. Moving forward to agenda item number 6, action item A, election of board members for Block 45 Evaluation Committee. Sheree.
So at our last meeting, we talked about the need to have 2 downtown advisory board members participate in the Block 45 evaluation process to select developers to move forward through the process for who we would choose to redevelop Block 45. So what I would like for you to do today is to, if you're interested in participating on the evaluation committee. At the last meeting, we talked about my preferences is that you haven't been on the evaluation committee before and that you don't have any potential conflict of interest. So I will put it back to you, Josh. I did come prepared this time with papers. Some of you may remember the last time we did this, all of a sudden there was no way for anybody to write down who they wanted to vote for. So lesson learned, I got the papers today. So
Wonderful.
So as far as what your role would be, so basically, if you're interested in it, you would be on a committee, another downtown advisory board member and staff, and the proposals that come in, they're due November 4th. Those proposals that come in, you would be given a form that outlines what the criteria is and the scoring that you'd be doing, and you would be getting a copy of those proposals in confidence, scoring them, and then you would be coming to a meeting with the rest of the committee members, and you would be looking at those developers who'd be moving forward in the process for a second interview.
What is the makeup, in addition to the 2 downtown advisory board members, of the evaluation committee?
So typically we have had the director and of course Tori, who will be
Banford.
Tori Banford, yeah, he's the one who will be the project manager for it. And we've had representatives from planning department and development services. Again, the second interview process has included 2 counselors, like for Block 45, and then other members of different disciplines of the city.
And then a question, Rory, I know you served on the Block 50 evaluation committee. Can you speak to your experience on that?
Yeah, it was a good experience. We're provided with, a handful of developers. Some of them had significant information in their packets. Others were just, throwing their hat in the ring sort of deal. We had, was it 1 meeting or we had 2?
One.
We had 1 meeting, we all got together. We sort of ranked the developers and which ones, seem most fit to pull off the project. And Sheree then and the rest of the, I think it was the 4 of us.
Yeah, it was Shelley, Kristen, me, you 2, and I think we had Lisa, the administrator of the planning department.
Right, and just do realize that there is a bit of homework that goes into it and a bit of time that you need to spend.
Okay.
So keep that in mind if you are, putting your hat in the ring to be a part of this committee.
Any other questions to Sharif about the evaluation committee and the process? Okay, Sharif, what would you like the process to be for us to?
I would love those that, and we kind of talked about this at the last meeting, those that are probably kind of the only ones who don't have conflicts and haven't done it before.
Yeah, I remember.
Alan,
Let the minutes reflect Alan remembers.
Ryan, yeah, okay, see, this is what's happening. Peer pressure. Feeling it?
I'll be happy to do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Lori. Miller, and is anyone else? I myself am interested to participate. Am I allowed to as chair?
Oh, you're allowed to do it as chair as long as you don't feel that you're gonna have any conflict in it.
So I'm willing to. So Lori and myself, there's only two? I don't wanna say yes.
I don't need to. I'm more qualified than I.
You don't have anything else going on, right now? Okay,
So then, what we'll do is, if the board would vote in support of those two, that would be all we need for that agenda item. Who's the vice?
Oh, we vote even if we think we have a conflict, doesn't matter.
No, are you the vice? Aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, just because Josh is putting himself in the ring, why don't take the vote for those two?
But I should do, does everyone vote even if you think you have a conflict? I don't know if that's a conflict.
that is a good question. If you do intend to submit something,
Oh, okay, now, just let me think a second, so you're only voting for people that are not yourself,
Sure,
okay, so you don't have.
I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
alright, well, if there's no other applicants or candidates. I'd really love to see you
Are you
guys.
sure?
It's a lot.
no,
You know, being that it's election season, really love to get like a speed. Yeah, so. I don't know what this is.
Okay, so.
Can we take a vote, all that are in favor? Lori Miller and Joshua Kay.
Being
as
on the
the
block
Block
45.
45 evaluation committee members. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, which none of the ayes and say nay. Okay, great. Motion passes.
Thank you, Josh.
and this is just a little foreshadowing of what we have to look forward to in the future when Charles becomes chair.
No, that.
Thank you.
I'm rethinking, maybe Charles needs to switch with you.
I'll be at the right.
Watching some Charles.
Lori,
Go left.
Lori, thank you for volunteering.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Very exciting. So Lori and I will stay tuned for correspondence, and then whatever happens from that first meeting is reported back to Dab before it goes upwards towards.
So basically, I think what I came back with in between the final selection was just how many had submitted proposals and what the next step was.
Got it.
Because until somebody's selected, it's confidential.
Got it.
Okay,
Okay,
happy to do that.
wonderful. No papers necessary, but thanks for being prepared for that. It's a lot. Okay, moving forward, agenda item 6B, determination of board meeting dates for November and December.
So unless we're all getting together on Thanksgiving.
I vote yes.
Okay, we run into this every year, and historically what the board has done is they don't have a board meeting in November. And because of the holiday season in December, they typically want to have the board meeting closer to the beginning of the month. So typically they've been like the second week of December. So you would have no November, and you would have a meeting, let's say, like on the 12th of December. And sometimes you guys do Tuesdays instead of Thursdays historically, or the 10th of December. And that's just what the board has done. If you want to do something else, you guys can talk about it. And
So the idea is that the 12th takes care, or the one takes care of November and
Exactly.
December, and that's the one meeting
Yes.
before the end of the year.
yes,
Do you anticipate a stacked agenda?
in December.
Sure.
That's a very good question.
Yes.
So. I'm not gonna be here after the end of the year, and so I'm gonna try to the best of my ability to bring. To you, or at least have ready, a budget discussion for the next year, even though it'll be very early. For you to have that discussion, just because I wanna make sure that I provide that continuity of what we've been talking about. So. Yet different than our December one, because that would be early for budget discussions, but I do want to do that in December.
Are we able to just start throwing out dates and what works best? Or is there a set dates that you?
No. No, again, I'm just giving you the background as to typically what your preferences have been. But you can choose whatever date
Okay,
that you want.
so in November typically we would have been the 21st,
Fourth,
Or the
it would have been Thanksgiving,
sorry,
28th.
28th. So. Oh, boy. Like there's a lot of things going on in November and December. How do we feel about the week of the 11th of November versus the week of the 18th?
For November?
Yeah,
Them, or you wanted to do still, or are you?
I'm sorry,
Let's skip November.
somebody help me out here.
Reason 2025.
So.
Combined with 2 months is what.
Yeah, November 14th is sometime in December. Oh,
Yeah, I think he was being more than that too.
Yeah, sorry,
I was.
Do you want December 11th? Josh, is that what you're saying, or Wednesday? It doesn't matter what day. Is that what you were looking at? Your
It
availability?
sounds like we wanna do one meeting for the 2 months.
Yes.
I'm just throwing out December 18th, Wednesday.
okay by me.
12 was so cute because 12 plus 12 is 24, it's just a really like monument, please.
12, 24, yeah.
I mean,
You could do the 12th without me.
Oh, no, you guys.
You'd be leaving that on the.
Yes, yes. That's my gift to all of you.
The 18th, does the 18th not work for anybody?
I got a lot of meetings, but
You could be excused early.
I could be a little late or excused early. Works for everybody else, I can.
Alright, the 18th at noon, now let's get a vote,
What if we push it to 11:30?
That works for everybody else.
as long as Charles brings cupcakes or cookies.
What, that's way too much sugar before lunch.
You're right.
we can do it next week, Christine.
I'm up for the challenge.
18th, 11:30,
That's fine, Linda. I think what we want to do is, because that's a change, do it as early as possible. Note that, because everybody. if you're expecting.
all reviewers.
Yes.
Followers.
I can put the notice on the
That'd be
city
good.
calendar.
Something.
Yeah, that's easy to do, and then add the materials later when they're ready.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion for that?
I'll move that we have our next meeting on Wednesday, December 18th at 11:30.
Okay,
Any further discussion? Point of order or question, do we need to clarify that we are not having a November meeting, or do we? Is that satisfactory? Okay, all those in favor of having the next downtown advisory board meeting occur December 18th at 11:30 a.m. say aye. Those not nay. Motion carries. Thank you for your flexibility. Okay, agenda item number 7, moving forward, information reports. Paid parking implementation strategy, Rick Williams, parking consultant.
So
Hi, Rick.
I'm gonna cue this up,
Okay.
very excited that we have Rick Williams from Rick Williams Consulting. And you know what you want to say, I was.
Yes.
No, yes, from Parachute, and, Rick, has been on point to address the financial analysis for implementation of paid parking. And Gwen has been on point to work with Rick on the communication outreach strategy. So I'm just gonna kick it off real quick with just a refresher on background in regard to downtown parking. District was created in 1976. That's what we call the, downtown parking district. And the goal of that was economic promotion and maintenance and operations of the 3 parking garages, Liberty, Marion, and Chemeketa Parkade. The revenue that we have in the parking district is generated from that are paid for by employees and the construction workers on street and the parking tax. Over the years, the parking tax has decreased as a result of large retailers going out of business. We also have the impacts of COVID, and you as a board have oversight over the parking fund budget. So you have been making recommendations to city council you did for 3 years in a row about the need to change the free on-street parking to a paid system. And so what we've been doing is we've been working with council members to share with them what this implementation strategy is, because they made a recommendation in February that we implement a paid parking system. And Rick is now ready, and I put it in your package, a financial analysis. And I think you also know that we have about 393 businesses within the parking district, of which 215 or more than 50% pay the minimum tax. So that was capped in 2013 at 2% for CPI Portland, whatever is lower. And so we haven't been able to increase the parking tax to keep up with the need. And we've had the zero budget and had to rely on subsidies from the general fund to pay for the security that everybody has been wanting in the parking garages based on increased vandalism, not just from homelessness, but from people doing the smash and grabs, which is not the homeless doing that. So anyway, I just wanted to remind you all as to kind of the history and the consequences of I know you know it because we talked about it in here with the budget as to why we have not been able to do power washing of the sidewalks. We had that whole moment of it's been 10 years since we've been power washing the sidewalks. It's 10 years since we've done the alley cleaning. We haven't had banners. We haven't had hanging flower baskets. We've had to put on hold, and even some of the projects that need to be doing on parking structures have been put on hold because we just have not had the funds to do it. It's been a very tough conversation that we've had to have every year. And so I'm very excited, and I know you are all excited to hear how we might get beyond this and the benefits of this type of a system. So they're the experts. I don't know. Is that good?
That's
Okay.
How you doing, Rick?
Thank you. It's nice to be here. My name is Rick Williams. I'm president of Rick Williams Consulting. To my right is my esteemed partner, Milius with Parachute. I've been working on parking for 30 years. I've been blessed to work with this group since 2006, off and on throughout those years. Gwen and I have worked on a lot of projects together. I do parking, Gwen does outreach. And so we're really pleased to be here. If there's one expert in the room on parking now, it's Shirley. After all years, she's an expert. I hope in the future there's never got a Shirley Award and parking consultant. We have to- So our agenda today with you is to talk a little bit about the project timeline, to let you know there's a lot of work going on in the background and going forward to get to where we want to go. I want to spend a little time working with you, at least showing you how the financial model is derived, so that you're comfortable with it. And then we'll turn it over to Gwen to talk about what's happening in the public outreach. Then questions and adjourn, and really we'd like a lot of questions, so if I seem like I'm going too fast, let me know. Because we really want time to hear from you and answer your questions. As I said, and I apologize, this is a busy slide, there's 2 slides. We just want you to know there's a lot of work that has preceded this. In the background, we have a project management team that Cherie and Sarah Long head up. That's made up of myself, Gwen, and some of my senior staff. And Lance Jones sits in on the parking side. We also have what we call an install committee. And that install committee is made up of myself, and Williams Consulting senior partners, and all the vendors who are involved in the project. And then Lance is helping us in the background with a team specifically focused on the new signage that needs to go in place. So as you can see from this timeline, we're meeting almost monthly with all those committees, and we're working with vendors, and it's a really complex project. It all began here to sort of break up the clutter. It all began in February 27th of 2023 when council directed staff to move forward on implementing the performance-based parking management plan. Council has reviewed this, we've launched it, we were brought on right after that directive in 2023. In January of 2023, in spring of 2023, we did some data collection. I'll talk to you a little bit about that today. But you can see there's been a lot of work going on in the background to get here, information distribution internally and to senior staff and to city council, the mayor and the city manager. We had a meeting, or Cherie had a meeting with the mayor and the city manager on September 11th to bring them up to date with all the reports, all the meeting notes, and this timeline. The actual timeline that we have is like this. It's much bigger, and again, we've tried to condense it here today for you. So as you can see, today is October 24th, and we're meeting with you to let you know where we are now, and then to let you know where we're going. But the good news is we launched, we collect data, we've done research, we feel good about the findings of our research, and we want you to feel good about it as well. The next big target for us, we've received budget estimates now from both the vending teams. One, those who are going to purchase and install the equipment, and then sort of our technology vendor who supports the handheld enforcement applications. We're going to move from pay and display to pay by license plate. This will require new software integration for the enforcement personnel to match up with that function within the new equipment. It also involves reintegrating all of the meters that are currently in the Capitol Mall that are pay and display, all have to be transitioned. We've got those budgets in, and as Gwen will talk about a little bit, we're adding an app-based payment function to the new system for customers to use. And that's another technology upgrade that we need to look at. Again, all of the budgets are in, they meet our expectations of the budgets that we thought this was going to cost us. And those POs requests are now moving forward so that we can get those POs approved in November. And so that's really good news. That's why I put a big red circle around that to let you know that's a really important new target date. With the POs, when they are approved in April and May, actually into June and July, the meters will arrive and vendor will start installing them. We've given ourselves a lot of lead time on this, so we may have to bag them, or so that customers know that, they don't need to use them at that time, but we want to spend a lot of time installing, troubleshooting, getting the signage up, testing the software, and make sure that, when they do go live, that we have no glitches. We've done this before in other cities. We did Tacoma, Washington, Ventura, California, all of the meter systems in Portland. And Gwen and I have worked on those together. So we know we've got good vendors and we've got a good methodology. As you probably can expect, you'll see that in green, there's a lot of outreach that's going on beginning in November, early outreach, public outreach efforts to educate the public that phase 3, that you can see there in January through April, that Gwen will talk about. Because when I think people see those, whether the meters are bagged or not, when they see those meters go in, we need to be ahead of the game. We need to know what we're doing. We need to have our messaging in place. We need to make people feel comfortable that this is a good plan and it's going to go off without a hitch. As you can see, the second circle on the slide, July of 2025, July 1st. That may vary. We didn't know. It's a target now. We don't know about if you really want to do that on 4th of July weekend coming up. But anyway, the 1st of July, that could move. Meters go live and the app goes live. So we'll be ready to go. And then enforcement begins. And when we say enforcement, we mean not that we're going to go start issuing citations. It's going to be more of an ambassadorial approach. But as soon as the meters go live, we could go out. We're going to have training sessions with folks, give them an opportunity to touch and feel. Gwen will talk about that. So when I say enforcement begins, I should say sort of enforcement communications begin. You could give courtesy notices to people, informational, so it might look like a ticket on their car, but when they get it, it says, oh, it's the new system, you may have made a mistake. Here's how to use them. If you need more information, go to a website or do a video. So anyway, don't be, probably using the term enforcement was a little strong, but we'll begin communicating the system. And off we go. The ordinances for the revisions of the parking district closure will occur, and I'll talk about that in a subsequent slide here. But the goal of what we're seeing positive in the financial is that that parking tax, that parking district can probably go away. Because we feel that the revenues are certainly going to cover all of our expenses. So again, sorry for how cluttered that was and how much is going on, but hopefully you feel comfortable that this is not just something that we get to every few months. We're working on this daily, and we have a very good plan and program in place, and a great team, or teams, I should say, working on all the elements of this.
Quick question.
Yes, please.
Is the parking district closure and parking taxes for businesses, is there an overlap between the enforcement beginning and the parking tax ending?
It's like a year.
That's the,
That's not gonna fly with my tenants.
Sheree, I don't know your answer.
So there is an overlap because you don't have $1.4 million day one. So there will be an overlap of holding on to the parking tax while we get stabilized on the on-street pay system. So the goal is to hold the parking tax and overlap it with on-street for 18 months. I think that was the assumption, with the intent of the district's closing. There's a process to go through legally to close the district, so there would be that overlap for sure, because we wouldn't have any way to maintain the parking garages or pay for security or anything else if we just said, as soon as you see the meter, we have everything we need.
Yeah,
There's no way.
the model is set up on a fully annualized year. And so when we're starting up in July, it would take at least 12 months, and we kind of went to 18 months. to get to that 1.4 that we're talking about. Cherie's right, when the January 1 go live date, we still have 0 revenue. So that's how the model is tracked.
Is there outreach specific to that?
Yeah. Well, I think we heard you, I think we need
I
out.
just made a note about that.
Yeah, absolutely, yes,
The education
yeah.
piece of it,
It makes sense, but
all the education
Sorry.
materials and frequently asked question document, they will all say that. Everything, you're seeing it, 18 months, there is an overlap.
Yeah.
We absolutely have to be, I mean, we've talked about this, transparent with that because, and we're gonna run the risk, we've talked about this too. If I'm a business and I see that station go up, I'm not paying my tax.
Right.
That's not gonna be good. I can appreciate that those of you that have tenants that don't wanna pay the tax. And again, as I shared with you, 393 businesses, more than 50% of them pay $469 a year. They pay the minimum tax. If they don't pay it, if that's the messaging, because we're not all in agreement that we want time to get stable, it's gonna be very difficult to maintain the minimal that we're maintaining now. So that's the other piece of this conversation. My goal is that you all understand it, so that when these questions come up, you understand what the answer has to be. That's why you're so critical. If your tenant at the mall says, hey, you know, I'm not paying that tax anymore, you're gonna have to say, look we only have 2 weeks of revenue off a base station. And we have $1 million in costs, there will be an overlap, but the commitment is we're closing the district. You know,
Okay.
You guys have to be
Good.
behind that.
There may be a visual that we could show, you know, just like anticipated increase in revenue for 8%, you know, but show the budget.
big throw rag goes.
Yeah. Okay, but I appreciate the question.
Thank you.
One of the good things about this model, and you'll see when we get to the finance, is we didn't have to carry the cost of the purchase of the equipment because Roman renewal did that for us, which means we can actually get to the closure of the district soon. And I don't know if that's part of the message, that's the parking finance block. But on other models that we've done for other cities, that getting to your net revenue can be anywhere from 4 to 6 years before a system breaks even and then carries over, because you're carrying those, many cities will carry sometimes a one-time upfront cost, which puts the fund in deficit, or they break it out over 5 years for the carrying cost of new equipment, installation, et cetera. So this model actually it's positive for this room. I'm not sure it applies for paying the tax, but a positive in this room is that this model actually accelerates the path to net revenue faster than most models that we've done for other cities, because we're not having to carry that upfront cost, which is north of $1 million. So, but a great question, and it really helps Gwen and Julie and I in terms of our messaging. All of this began with data, so that February 23 sort of notice to move forward with this evaluation and transition. We wanted to make sure that one, the use of the system telegraphs the need to go to paid parking. You don't put paid parking in cities where you're gonna lose money just to make, you know, just to have paid parking. A lot of people in the industry, particularly the transportation industry, says, oh, you have on-street parking, you should charge for it. No, you need demand to do that. On the left is a graphic of the study zone, what we call the Downtown Parker District, or the DPD. On the right is the 2023 data collection effort that shows you those red block faces. So when you show red, it means that those block faces are consistently parked at over 85% during the day. The orange, which is harder to see, means that you're right about at 85%, which is considered an efficient system, but still not a lot of wiggle room of customers trying to conveniently, quickly find a space to park. And then you do have some lot faces that are green, which means that you have some empty stalls available. When you get into this cluster here, the majority of the DPD lot faces are constrained. As a consultant who's worked with you for a long time, and these findings are consistent with all of the findings we've had since 2009, all the parking studies that we've done for you. We suspended doing parking studies during the, let's say, the 3 years of the pandemic, because we knew what we were going to find. So reigniting the data collection in 2023 was heartening, because Salem is kind of back to where it was pre-pandemic. When I drove in today, again, your streets are really packed. So that's a good system. It looks like you've recovered. I can't prove it just visually and data wise. We work with a lot of cities, but it seems like you guys have recovered faster than a lot of the cities that we're working with. So again, we felt comfortable in saying, yeah, let's do the analysis, because if you just take the standard 85% rule that is the industry standard for, you should be really thinking about moving your system to a more aggressive system of management and considering paid parking, because you have not significant, you have consistent constraints within your downtown retail core. And again, I just wanted to say that this is, as a consultant, I think we've made the recommendation to this group, I think 4 times in the past, that you should at least consider moving to paid parking. The data, again, is consistent and accompanying. So based on that, we did a financial analysis that I'm going to show you.
Sorry, Dan, I have a quick question. Do you guys have data on utilization of the free parking garages and?
Yes.
Okay.
And hold that thought, because I'm gonna talk a little about that, because we factored that into our model.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was.
Which I really appreciate the question. So we got council direction to implement a paid parking system that required a financial analysis and an expense revenue forecast. Just to make sure that we're not metering something and lose money. We don't want to do that. So again, a busy slide, but I want you to focus on the right-hand side first, because back to your question, ma'am. What did we model for? We used the parking data from 2023. It's great that you can use occupancy data and translate a parked car in a specific hour to a potential revenue hour. And so that was great. So we, because we take license plates when we collect our data, we can assign value to each one of those vehicles. And we assign those values over 4 different rate scenarios. That's why you see the busyness here. And green is what I put was, you currently charge $1.50 an hour in the Capitol Mall. And so we ran the model at $1.50, simply based on consistency across what is now currently a parking meter district. And then we modeled at other levels, just in case, for instance, the $1.50 was failing or something. Then you would have to have a discussion of whether you want to charge more or delay this decision. As I said, no debt service to cover. So the model carries no debt service on equipment or its installation, which again is a really great place to be when you're making this consideration, particularly given the fact that you do have constraints in your system, your on-street system. Customers can and do have difficulties finding parking. It's a 20-year forecast, and so the larger report that we have for you or we get you forecast this revenue over 20 years and it forecasts expenses over 20 years. And importantly, the next 2 are important. We factored this for seasonal demand. So again, our initial database was in spring, but we also have 9 years of ODOT downtown traffic data that shows, and if you can, in the parking industry, oftentimes you can correlate the amount of parking growth to the amount of traffic growth in the downtown, because it's contained to a specific area. It's not necessarily drive-through traffic like we do on like suburban corridors. And so we were able to, for every month of the year, our we have a traffic engineer on staff, is to use that historical data. 2010 to 2019, which 2019 was the year before the pandemic. And we were able then to factor our occupancy models to the traffic. So it does go down in winter months and it goes back up and spring is probably median or average, and then you've got your summer months. And we were able to, so we believe that the seasonal factoring gives us the opportunity to see what your parking demand would be over the course of the entire year. So that's in the model. And then now specifically to your question, we factored in everything we lowered by 15% year round. Because you have adjacent, underutilized free parking garages. And we saw this happen in other cities that we've worked with. Ventura, California is a good example, where they metered their on-street system, but their off-street system was still free. And so we saw occupancies immediately go from very high, and they were in, I think, Ventura, 90% occupancies to down to like 70% occupancies. We didn't lose the customer, they just went to their free parking system, which now, 7 years later, they're having a conversation. One, their on-street system is doing great. Ventura is Ventura, but their garages now, they've actually attracted more customers, there's more space available. And now they're having occupancy studies that we're doing to see if they should move to paid parking in the off-street system. So the model factors for it, but I also think you as staff members need to know that you may see a drop in occupancies on street as people react to charges on street. The good news, bad news is that's partly the reason why we had an 18-month stabilization period. The good news is though, I don't think you'll lose a lot of customers because now they have an option. And then if that affects demand in your garages, you can have another discussion down the road.
Yeah, it says the cost to operate base year is 355,400, and I did the first 3 years, and it looks like the cost to operate actually goes down. So to me, it's a fixture, but what is the operational cost of these units?
I mean, the cost to operate the entire on-street system.
Cost to operate base 355,400 per year, so there's an estimated net revenue, so I'm just wondering what makes up, what's the breakdown on the cost to operate?
Oh, I'm sorry, like, who is it?
What is the breakdown of the costs, expenditures to operate?
I would have to get you the full model. Since I don't have it right at my hand.
It seems a lot of money for. Yes.
Well, if you break it down by,
I didn't know if there's
about
like
1,400
royalties
stalls.
or the app.
Yeah, about 1,400 stalls. The cost of paper, the back office cost of the credit card system, transaction fees, enforcement personnel. And some of that is a loaded cost of, and it's less, because you're carrying it up front, but equipment replacement costs, spare parts. I can get you the actual numbers on all of that.
I don't wanna take us down to the weeds, but I'm just wondering, because part of that is reserved towards future replacement costs and whatnot, where that lives, that. And it's just interesting to me that it actually does go down in cost annually.
Yeah, it usually costs more to get things up and going.
Sure.
And yeah, then it levels out, but what I'll do is I'll make a note, and Cherie, we can give you the full report with the model. We have a report that actually has all of the assumptions that go into the model. You can watch that go through the model. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you.
So in line with that, is staffing inside that, or is staffing, the guys running around doing tickets and everything? That's separate? Is it separate now, or is that going into this? Does that make sense?
The cost of enforcement staff would not be in the parking fund budget.
Right,
The parking fund budget is gonna continue to be an enterprise fund its own. It won't be mixed with anything else. Kristen and I, that was a meeting at Rick was there that we had with the budget office and city manager. The intent is it stays pure
So enforcement, operational and ticket revenue goes general fund, it doesn't live in our fund.
Correct.
Thank you.
But I just want you to know what's in the model, and this is just a small piece of all the inputs into the model, because as I said, there's also the traffic data inputs. So it's a very complicated model, but we can get that to you. But focusing on the green line, in the table to the left, you can see that the estimated gross new revenue is $2 million a year at $1.50 an hour. You subtract out operating costs and subtract out the parking tax. And at the end of the day, it comes to rounded up about $1.4 million a year annually. Through the first 5 years. So that's years 1 through 5. And again, you gotta consider that ramp up period, so this annualizes that out. At year 6 through 20, that's when you start seeing costs coming down, the system normalizes itself. We may see even more use of the system because we probably recapture some of that leakage that we lost into the garages. And it generates about 1.6 million in net revenue after all expenses. Okay,
I just wanna say it's conservative. I mean, sometimes people
try to.
look at this and say, is this aggressive or is this conservative? Our request was to have it be on the conservative, because to manage expectations versus it's something that we wouldn't be able to achieve,
Sure.
so.
If you're able to get more revenue more quickly, could you change the timeline for that tax for the tenants potentially?
We could reload the model every year. I mean, I don't wanna say we'll do it, but technically, if we get new information on your operating costs, we get new information on what actual leakage might be. Of course, you can just go in and plug in those new inputs and see what comes out the other side. But so any mod, yeah, I want to answer the question, if any model can be upgraded.
Yeah, I mean, no history, those are just
started $1.75 and
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
it's a quarter, you know, can we just start at $1.75 or $2 and then we can sunset the. Well, we get the money faster.
So was there
I
discussion,
would love
I'm
to
gonna ask that
try to
question,
raise a permit cost $2 in a parking garage and here.
This is gonna be brand new.
Can I ask it,
I'm
can I ask it this way, was there discussions on a strategy to sunset it at the same time as the enforcement was implemented?
It's not, money works.
well,
Even, so
I
even
wouldn't
if we
pay it,
charge
yeah.
$5 an hour,
Yeah,
we're not gonna have that money at the
Jason
beginning of the
does.
fiscal year.
Right, but maybe
Right.
12 months instead of 18, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a
Yeah, I
good
think
question.
it might be like at the 12-month range, like not sooner.
We've had questions like that before. The reason $1.50 seems good is because you're already doing it. And oftentimes when we do these models, stakeholder groups will ask us, well, why don't we go higher? And then our question back is, what's your demand? What is your customer paying now? And so having a base like $1.50 helps us. And then you can, that's why we give you these other models, $1.75 to $2.25. But in terms of conservative, and having a message that says these rates are not uncommon to Salem is way better than trying to say why we're gonna charge more with a new program at fire up when you've already got a base model running. So again, it's just more challenging. It's not that you can't do it. I really want to get quickly back to your question, just off the cuff. We'll give you the, like I say, we can give you that full model report. It comes to $21 per stall per month operating costs. The $355. So that's, which is right in the sweet spot of what we see in other cities. So it seems like a big number, but it's $21 per stall per month. To run, operate your back office charges, your warranties, transaction fees,
Licensing.
licensing, all of that. Software charges, all that stuff, yeah. But I love your question because I challenged myself.
Yeah.
Good question. But anyway, it's not as huge as what might look at a gross number.
Off the top of your head, do you know how much each stall would generate for revenue?
Take that same number of stalls, divide
Yeah.
it.
I would take
By
As a maybe
by it.
number.
Already see.
218.
Who can get there first?
No, that's a great question. I love these questions. Let's see.
17.
2, 1, 300. Each stall will generate $126 per month gross. Could be higher, because I use 1,400 stalls, which I think is more than it's actually in the district. I want to again be conservative.
Yes.
So anyway, now you have a net revenue of $1.4 million, and please don't stop the questions. So how the funds are used, there are permanent priorities that are in the fund now. Administrative overhead, regular maintenance and operation of the system, regular maintenance and operation of the structures that's currently in your fund but not well funded. And then what I think is important for you, the maintenance of the downtown parking district. So things like trash removal, sidewalk cleaning, streetscape maintenance, wayfinding maintenance, and street current maintenance would become a part of the permanent priorities of the revenues in this fund, plus the security services. So that's a big cover that's not in there now.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I know we have some deferred capital improvement projects. Sheree, is that being, and it's even prioritized, I think? Is
So
that?
he's gonna get to that. So basically, number 4, what we did is we tried to say right now, these are the things that we've heard people want. So when we do a survey or when people talk and they say we want more security, we want the sidewalks clean. That isn't something that if we had extra cash flow, we would prioritize. We're saying it goes right up front into what we want the money. The capital is a redo, and he'll get to that. It's not quite there.
And then reserves and residuals. So the model shows surplus revenue. So $1.4 million first is directed to the permanent priorities. And then any residual, any surplus after that would go into 2 categories. First, these are in priority orders. First, it would go into a capital improvement projects reserve. And maybe that answers part of the question that you just asked. And then beyond that, there are residuals that would be contracted services that the city/DAB could consider on a yearly basis. Things that could be requests for hanging flower baskets, banner installation, downtown promotions, or any other specified parking/transportation related improvement that might be requested by the community or by a group like this. Did you want to talk a little bit about DAB's role?
Well, I'm thinking we're gonna put a holder on there because
Okay.
we're
Yeah.
at 1 and
Okay.
Glenn
Okay.
hasn't had a
Go on.
chance.
So in summary, and these were great questions, so hopefully it didn't boil into the overtime that I did on the 20 minutes. So the summary of the financial system is the DPD continues to be constrained. That's been consistent. Just take out the COVID years and you're very consistent on your parking demand in the downtown. The model anticipates an annual surplus of $1.4 million. The new meter and the app will go live on July 1. That includes full integration with the Capitol Mall, which is very important. And then the goal is to sunset the existing downtown parking district in fiscal year 2026. And with that, we'll turn it over to Greg.
All right,
You want to do that? Or do you here?
here, let's try.
Let's get it.
Sure, let's walk students.
Good to go.
Yeah, that's fine, goes with you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you everyone for having us today and for the opportunity to present to you. So again, my name is Gwen Elias. I'm the owner of Coaching Strategies. We're a contractor to Rick Williams, but we're also directly with City of Salem. So I wanted to give you a quick overview of what the objectives are for the communication strategy together. First, an important step that we're going to take to gather input and collect questions from downtown stakeholders, people like you, property owners, businesses, visitors, customers, employees, and residents. Broad outreach. We're going to be especially talking to groups like you in person, but also doing a survey, and so we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll next be sharing tailored information on the new system that will be tailored for the audiences. We're going to notify users of dates change to the system, educate them about how the system will work. And then, the idea is that we want to support a successful implementation with clear and easy to find communication materials about the change in our system that's coming. So it's a 4-phase approach to communications. And the first phase was actually started by the City of Salem. They installed a pay station at the Chemeketa Arcade, and they've been gathering feedback from customer use survey around that station, so that there's already a model in place for people to use. The second phase is the one that we're in right now, and the one that we are enacting here in this room today, and that's to inform audiences of the project rollout. So there's been meeting mayor, city manager's office, city councilors, and to you. And then we were also going to be putting out a survey in this phase, and we're hoping that you guys will help spread the word and get your tenants and neighbors and partners in your work here in downtown Salem to fill out that survey. We're going to be we've got this project history, including the timeline of how we got to where we are today. We have messaging on the changes to the on-street system, changes to the downtown parking tax, and then the anticipated revenue and implementation schedule for the new system. So that's all in this phase. When we start into 2025, we'll be rolling into talking about the system itself, and the audience is going to get broader, where we're going to be talking about here's this change is coming to the system, the rollout schedule, and the anticipated benefits. Let's see, you can have a more public broadcast of those messages. In-person efforts will be going out to neighborhood chairs. Salem Main Street Association will happen in the early part of next year. Then in phase 3, there'll be a mass media, what I call an asynchronous outreach. So it would be not in person, basically to downtown residents, Center 50 Plus. You can see the list here: Willamette University, Marion County, businesses and stakeholders downtown, the chamber, you guys, city manager's office, state of Oregon, Salem Hospital, and basically any survey respondent who got to us in this phase that we're in now, saying I'd like some additional information. Outreach methods for phase 3 include the kinds of presentations we're doing today: direct mail, press release, some media outreach. There'll be an FAQ on the city's website, and one that will probably also be published on paper. City of Salem social channels will be lit up with information on this. Various email marketing that the city has stood up, city's newsletter, customer service center, and a weekly outreach through the mayor's office. Okay, and then moving from phase 3, we'll go to phase 4, and that's when it's getting close to time when the meters are going to be live. And in this phase will be there'll be new pay stations going in on the streets. People start to see them. Pay by plate system will come online, and there will be this conversion from pay and display to pay by plate happening in that phase. And the audiences are basically mirroring what we said we were doing in phase 3. So it's similar people. Methods of outreach. We have some ideas about how we might let people know and support them in their use of this new system. We'd like to make wallet-sized cards that people can put their license plate number on. I know, for instance, my husband can never remember the license plate on our car, and it's brought you back to the car, and we use a payment system. So having something in your wallet, oh yeah, just plug it into the system at the pay station. How-to videos on how to use both the app that you'll be getting, you'll have a mobile app, and how to use the pay station. So you have an option of paying on your phone or paying at the station. We're talking about putting together a little point of sale kit that downtown businesses could have. It could be like a window play, like, hey, pay to play, here's the new app, download it here. Maybe another QR for the FAQ on it. some rack cards if they're the kind of business that has, you know, brochures out. We can also do things like make chipboard coasters or other like swag to hand out to people to promote the new app. We're hoping to put together a little ambassador kit for enforcement, and this is something like, you know, friendly handouts that they can give out to people as folks are encountering the new system to talk them through how to use it. The working title of the app is Beep Beep Salem, and so that parking app will be launched in this phase 4. And then those promotional items for the app will be included.
You should consider going to like coffee places and giving me a little sleeves.
Yeah, sleeve, a series chipboard coasters, like all of that kind of stuff. You can do. And I think. So. Questions? We have like, I know we're open.
Probably more to you.
Or do you want to, okay, we're going over time already.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, you don't find that very questions. I just wanted to make sure that you got to hear this whole presentation. It went a little bit longer with Rick's, and I wanted you to hear all at once. Circle back to the questions now. Go for it.
Yeah, all the questions.
So, it's maybe not something you can answer, but the tax revenue, you gave me that number, 365,000 from the taxes, but that's. Is there the ability to do some sort of pay them back to offset that cost, so there's not the overlap in the future for that 1 year? It's like a kicker.
If we make it in time, we'll get it back.
It's a kicker idea where it's, you know, comes out of that 1.3, 18 months in the future, 24 months in the future, it gets paid back to. That's how you said it paid, so.
I think that that's something to note. The challenge just immediately that comes to my mind is that a lot don't pay. A lot have never paid. A lot don't pay all the invoice. They'll pay quarterly.
We can.
I asked for that. I'm sure through a public records request, somebody could get it, but again, there are some that have never paid in the entire time. It was hard for me to see that because I'm gonna say it does impact me. I don't go there. I don't go there because I see that they have not contributed, and we know the consequences to not contributing. And so each year, I think it's like 20,000 plus that we charge off because people don't pay. So that's what's running through my mind. What legal, if I sat down with legal, some do, some don't, blah, blah, blah.
Somebody wants here.
And they move out, you know, 30 days, but yet do they get their full amount? Because you get it prorated back. If you leave, it's not like we hold it, you get what you know, it's prorated back. But I think it's something that I haven't thought about, and those are the types of things that were interesting, so definitely do note it. Did you have anything more before we drive out of this?
You know, that's the end. That's the appropriate, right? Okay, well, in no particular order, I guess, in the order it's presented, you mentioned there's a kiosk and an app. It's the same rate for both, I heard. Whether you use one application or the other.
Is there a surcharge for the app?
I think we're traditionally, there is it's like a 35% transaction charge when you use the app. So the city is made whole,
It's not 35%, I think it's like.
35 cents, I'm sorry, 35 cents.
So one time, each time you do,
Each time you purchase a session,
okay,
it's called a session, which would be, in this case, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. So yeah, there is a transaction fee. And there's a limited number of cities that quote unquote absorb the cost. And so if someone pays with their credit card, the city gets $1.50. There's very few cities, but a couple do, where you use your app and the city is only gonna get $1.15. So traditionally, yeah, there is a transaction fee, but it's a convenience fee, but that's how. There's no cost to the city because that pays the vendor to provide the support to the app.
So there's just a transaction fee for the app, not for a credit.
Correct. Well,
The machines don't take cash.
well, there's a transaction fee on the credit card, but the city's actually paying that now.
Change, but not cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the law, because,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
they made it,
Some
you have
restaurants
to pay,
I
change
don't understand that.
the pay
Yeah,
station.
but the customer doesn't see that when they pay at the meter. They don't see the Visa charge. So
Okay.
Sure.
Sorry.
No.
My follow-up of that was, is there a benefit? I mean, you seem it in the sense of detriment to using one, but is there like a point or there's some sort of loyalty thing that you use the app a lot or buy 9 hours and get the 10th free?
You know, that's the first time I've heard that question. You can walk and ask the vendor.
We do not want him to get credit for having it.
Yeah.
His head's gonna get
You look at the benefit of the app versus the payment station. What the app does is that you walk away with it either running on your phone.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And so you're reminded, that your year's expiring and you have a chime to say like, hey, better go, move your car. They plug in
If you
your-
add time to it, does that mean you get speed charged again?
No, not, well, so
Extra run.
I'm speaking about the app that Portland uses.
Yes.
And
Parking Kate.
Yeah.
Parking Kitty is a different, it's a white label app base that you brand, right? And it works the same in all the cities. It's made by a parking app developer. Portland contracted with a different app developer, so I would need to find out from Flowbird if it's a every time or if it's per session for the charge, but the way it works on Portland is that it's a per session, so if you have a 2-hour limit, you bought an hour's worth of time, and you're like, well, lunch is going long, I'm gonna add an hour, usually it's no charge.
Because you haven't moved your car and it's tied to your license plate. But we'll look into that with the new this vendor.
Is the intent that the app will allow you to keep adding hours and hours and hours, and you can park there all day?
At this time, no. But the app is capable of doing that. So that it has the flexibility to do that. It would be a simple change by the vendor. But at this time, with 3 hours, most cities that have 3 hours don't have that option. It's usually in cities that parking is 90 minutes or it's a 2-hour limit. So yes, it's capable, but no, this system doesn't begin with it. We want to simplify it and say, hey, you can pay with an app, then grow the functionality of it over time as we see how people respond to it.
And is there a reason not to have that, though? Like, it seems like it gives the ability to make, just someone wants to pay $20 or $10, $15, whatever it is, to park there all day.
Yeah, there's no self turnover.
Cities-
You don't have to vacuum.
That's a policy decision. Most cities, the addition of time is an exception rather than rule. Some cities do it, most cities have a shorter time stay than you.
Because you
The
want the
data-
turnover then?
Yeah,
Yes, you want that to know.
The money is not for the benefit
No, I
of
mean,
you having that stall used and paid all day long versus having to turn over and.
so that goes back to when I first started working in parking and they did the utilization surveys. It starts out, you have free unlimited time. You hit the 85% rule and you put in time limits because you don't have any parking spaces. People are parking there all day. So put the time limits in and utilization surveys, and the average time stay in Salem
1
was like
hour and 53 minutes.
1 hour and 53 minutes, they didn't put 2 hours out there. Because we had we beat the industry, 6 to 7 unique vehicles, different cars used that space. Within those, that's a time limit they use. The 3 hours, I can't say why we have 3 hours because maybe I could now that I'm leaving. What else do you want to do? And again, as you probably remember, we had 2 hours. And then we wanted to do paid on street parking initiative petition. And that initiative petition was no time limits in addition to a cap on the tax and stuff. So we took all of the time limits off the street, 2 hours gone, unlimited, this was in 2013. All the signs down, and then at the holiday season. 100 retail businesses show up at council and say, this is our big time of year, there's no on-street parking, it's all free. And it's like, well, you signed the petition, you didn't want paid parking, and they actually said, we didn't see that in there. We signed it, but we thought it was just because we wanted it free, not the 2 hours to go away. So that's when all of a sudden it's free.
Well, one
But
last,
two's always been best.
Yeah.
one last thing I'll say too,
Yeah.
as I ran it through my list of cities that we work with. With the 3 hour time stay with an app. If someone needs more time, we need to educate them that the off-street system is there for them, for the long-term visitor. So, you know, part of me says that if you have the ability, and again, we say it's a policy decision down the road, we didn't plan for it in this phase, it's just get the app in people's hands. But technically, you really don't wanna do that, when you're letting people park for 3 hours and you have this amazing off-street parking system that is underutilized. So we would wanna educate the customer that over time, if you need more time in Salem, go to a garage.
Yeah,
Um,
garage needs.
So anyway, thank you for that question. It took me a while to
Now you-
process that, to make sure I was giving you a good answer.
But I mean, you know, that perception.
Yeah, you can have the one.
Yeah.
Does the system allow for more than one payment app? So for instance, so we have a fare payment app, I'm with the transit district, pay the fare. Can we utilize that as well, pay the parking fare?
It's a great question. There are cities that have what are called go as you please passes. Maybe similar to what you have with transit. I'm only gonna answer, I haven't seen a lot of them, but as my technology staff, my partners tell me, you can do anything. So long term, you know, having a beat downtown access pass, you know, is doable. I've always told, everything's doable technology. I'm an old, you know, I'm the status
I'm
quo.
like more of a cynic on the what's still,
Yeah. I know, that's why
I'm
you're
on
not-
the receiving end of a difficult project in Portland, trying to bring a lot of different kinds of payment. Different kinds of services under one umbrella. And it's hard to find one app developer who does all those things well. And so it becomes, it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily suggesting one app for everything, but maybe more than one app to. Hey,
Oh, probably not, right? Because I mean, it's Flowbird's system, so it's
Yeah,
kind of
it's a
closed.
proprietary meter
Yeah.
system, so I don't know.
So that is a great segue into one of the other questions. Is it a proprietary meter system? In that, what if, you know, apps come and go, right? I used to have one and now I can't download it anymore, they just don't exist. Other than
By buying the white label, the city has the right to go with another app provider.
And the hardware can.
Well,
Hmm.
they would work to try to integrate it.
Right.
But yeah, that
Oh,
by having the
integrate.
white,
Yeah,
by having the
well,
white label, Flowbird has told the city, if you can find an app that's compatible with our equipment, we are not going to deny you the right, nor the naming rights, to do that. If you wouldn't have bought the white label, it would have been called Flowbird.
Okay.
Right.
Better than Hey Kitty.
Parking kitty time.
Sorry.
We want garage app. Dude, this is a dumb, small question, as we've all got a good one so far, thank you. Do the kiosks allow for like an advertising opportunity?
That's a city thing, no. We don't allow advertising
It's
on,
revenue,
I know.
not on the outside, not all the stickers that are gonna show up there, I mean, on the. You're gonna go and pay the little things that, by the way, come to 440 this week, and I paid $1,000 for that.
Sounds like Charles is advocating for a new committee to come alongside installation. Yeah.
The revenue enhancement committee.
Yeah, I was in enhancement, whoa,
Yeah.
I love emails.
That would be streets.
And this one, I think encapsulates a few others that say what Kurt's earlier about the 3 hours wanting to keep on feeding the meter, and I've been in that situation and I enjoy that because I'm rock climbing and I go, I wanna move my car, but does this change, I guess, any of the parking rules now? The time that this will be charged, the return to block, that.
Yeah, I can answer. The return to block goes.
Yeah, so add that to the outreach because people keep.
No, I know, it's a big,
Yeah,
we've
repark
talked
goes
about it from the beginning. The second one would be. Employees, volunteers, students right now are not allowed to park on street, so it's parking in the garage. That all goes away. If you don't want, if you don't want. The efficiencies of a permit as far as cost, and you wanna pay what? $15 a day, cause you're taking whatever. I guess you can park on the street, but again, I always wonder why an employee wants to park on the street and take a customer parking space, but they do. So, yes, that all goes away. So the ordinance that says you can't park on the street if you're an employee, a student, and a volunteer. Gone.
But
Return to
enforcement
block
hours,
gone.
it's in,
Pardon?
enforcement hours, it's in.
Okay. Back to what Rick was talking about when he said the 3 hours. To work done is hard. Everybody's used to 3 hours. So to start out at 3 hours, to start out at
Well, I mean, I like.
From 7 a.m. to
But enforcement hours, I think in the beginning would stay the same, just because too much is going to be hard for everyone. However, we've already talked about when we put it on the street, we don't know right now how the impact from the residents moving off the street, which now can move every 3 hours. They're not like an employee. The ticket's expensive, it's $100. Residents can park on street and move every 3 hours. Because if they're in a parkade, they have to pay for a permit. We don't know yet what that's gonna mean, and that's going to inform, and probably a follow-up survey is what we've talked about, once the system goes into place, follow-up survey, just about that. You know, if it's 8 to 8, are we running into those issues with everybody goes back on the street and the restaurants and some of the entertainment? There's no place for them to park because there's no enforcement. So I think a lot of that, we're gonna hold it what we have right now. 8 to 8, but then we're gonna check back in to see what's happening with the residents being pulled into the parkades. And if they're flipping right back out, because that's a complaint I get now, 5 o'clock, they're all back on the street, enforcement stops at 8, so they know they can be there for 3 hours. All that, yeah, and that entertainment, and there was a need for more entertainment and restaurants, and I am there with it. That will be a future survey and a check back in on the system, but I don't think everything's gonna get immediately changed. We want to inform whatever the change is. We want to be able to defend it and answer your questions. Why did you go from 3 to 1? I couldn't tell you right now, other than Rick saying, you know, most communities don't do 3 because they're looking at turning those spaces where you guys are talking about, we're fine with somebody staying there 10 hours, can we make it 10 hours? And I think that will be, you guys need to change your mindset about who are you solving for, the revenue, what the app may or may not be able to do, and how you look into the future. But this is brand new to us.
Sure, definitely.
Brand new.
So you're, sorry, just real quick on the parking structure one, so you're saying residents, because parking structure becomes free. Residents can park in the parking
No,
structure.
you're a resident, you have to buy it
Now,
right now.
but in the future that goes away, or that still is a thing?
No, that isn't one I said go to play.
Okay.
We're hoping that generates some revenue finally for
Because
us in the park.
force.
Right, you know,
Because-
exactly. You no longer parking.
Speaking of, great segue, on your chart of up to 20 years, it was the same parking rate for those 20 years.
Yes and no. That's the, and I apologize for this, that's the curiosity of a model. The model assumes that your revenue will increase by 2.5% a year. That can be modeled as either increased trips that come into your system or periodic rate increases over time. The model begins at $1.50, but then it inflates at 2.5%. Or it could be a combination of both growth and rate. So the model is not saying what your rate will be in 5 years. The model will assume that you have managed to achieve that target.
But you've done this for a long time, it sounds, I know that the app hasn't always been a part of it, but it seems to be the thing that will drive the cost the most. Hey, pun intended. What do you see in general, I mean, do we have a contract at X number of years, is that 2.5 enough, or does the cost of the app outpace that? Because, oh, it's time to re-up, sorry, your app costs twice as much now.
We haven't seen that happen in the app market. That costs are much more than anywhere from 15 to 35 cents a transaction.
Oh, but I mean, just the license of the app, the usage of it.
Oh,
Like a contract.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, there's a contract.
Same thing
for
with
license.
license.
I don't know what the.
Well, you know, we have proprietary security software, and basically I have to pay an extortion fee every 5 years. And that also goes with my fire alarm, you know, protection system, so I think this proprietary
sucks.
Well, I think it's something you.
question is a valid question.
Yeah, I think it's something we need to track, but it needs, it was one of the earlier questions today about can the model be adjusted over time? I think every year you need to adjust the model. We have not seen that type of growth in licensing fees for parking equipment. I was on the project that installed the downtown parking meters in Bolton, the first meters pay stations ever placed in the United States. We just haven't seen that same type of inflation.
Parking equipment is not affected by COVID, it's the one thing. Sorry.
Yeah, but I would say, to answer
Is
your
your
question
easement-
correctly, I think the model needs to be adjusted every year. It's easy, we have the model, all we have to do is load in the most fresh data.
I'm gonna do the two easy ones because the hard one's gonna not work. I think on number 16 of your presentation, I'm sure there was some broad things of places to talk to people who want to add the Salem Main Street folks to your list, which I would certainly like it and be very excited.
They're on page 16.
Are they?
Top, second one.
Neighborhood.
Yeah, it's okay.
I was trying to think of my awesome questions. My blender.
Sorry.
And I would just throw in there that beep beep kind of sounds like what happens when someone cusses on a reality show and they leave it out, and that's what it's gonna do. You can say those. Or yeah, or have the road or anything like that. You got a second choice?
That's not open for discussion, just in case you want to know.
Yes, I did hear it was
Well,
a
we're very
working title.
safe.
I did hear
Only-
it was a working title, did I not? Hear
I
that
misspoke.
presentation?
I misspoke, it's not up over.
I mean, there's actually, and I'm just quoting what I saw for one community, their parking thing was, what the car? So.
You're saying it can get worse.
What I'm saying is that we talking about parking kitty, there's angel parking, I mean. There's no way that I can have everybody choose something, so,
Should have consulted with Charles.
yeah.
Speaking of beep beep, how do you handle feedback and all these other things that are gonna be really angry with the implementation?
Paid parking,
Something, yeah.
Is there a soundboard they bounce off of, or how do they,
Oh,
what do they
okay,
expect?
again,
Obvious.
that,
Yeah, where's the feedback go?
Yeah.
oh, well, again, we're doing
I mean, you're.
the outreach.
That's-
I know because you know right where they come, all questions related to parking.
Tiny things, like, sure.
Yeah. Finally, the fun.
Why do you match on bomb and
No, actually, you know, this is, I'm thrilled about this,
3-minute warning.
because we need a different parking system. You guys know it. And again, I hope you know how important you've been in moving this forward and how important you're gonna be, because we want it to be successful. So in regards to, if somebody has something that they wanna say, that will be built into, if you have any questions, this is who you would contact. It's always like that. Just like on block 45, that solicitation's out there. You have questions, You wanna know who to call, it tells you who to call. Videos, websites, everything will say, if you need something, call, and there will be. But this is why you guys have to think about it. What is that, what are they gonna get from that? So they all say, hey, we're residents, we provide more in downtown than anybody does because we're down here and we support the businesses. We should get free on-street parking, a reduced permit cost. Your goal is to look at the demand is what should drive what the cost is. We've never done that. We've always said, oh, we don't want anybody to pay more than this. You have to think differently now. We're the only ones who say we have all this demand, but it's free. And it's on the backs of a business. You have to think differently. This is your opportunity to just really move this forward. It can change, like they said, it's flexible, but they will have somebody to call. They will totally have multiple ways to get their complaints. And again, I hear those about the residents, from residents already. They think that they should be able to park for free during the snow days. That's my favorite. When you can, okay, we get to park then for free because we're residents all day. And no, that you don't get a priority over myself parking right by the door all day. So it already happens with the residents. It will be a change for them. And Lori's right, you have to keep the security there and make the parkades be something that people want to go into, which is why having it clean, having it secure, you will wear that balancing act because nobody wants to go into a parkade right now. Even though I've been in one and never had an incident ever.
Because they go too far.
Yeah, and I have more than one car that I drive, but you guys are on the cutting edge, it doesn't get better than this. So much opportunity to finally do this big thing, so do it. Will I come back and just keep track of when the meters go on the street, I will be there. And we're hoping enforcement guys have t-shirts and make it fun, we want it to be successful, but we need your help.
With all that said,
Sorry.
Rick, Nurture Strategies, your name again, sorry.
When,
Gwen, thank you both very much for coming to town.
Thank you.
I'm surprised we covered this much ground in 45 minutes because this is a very loaded subject and topic. But we are over our time. I want to respect everybody's time and we will adjourn.